Admiral Jake Morrison watched Earth burn from the bridge of his ship. The blue and green world that had been home to 12 billion humans was now covered in fire and smoke. Council ships flew through Earth's atmosphere like deadly birds, dropping bombs on every major city. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, all of them were burning. "Admiral, we have the last evacuation ships ready to jump," Captain Lisa Rodriguez said from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the pain underneath. Lisa had been born in Mexico City. Her family was down there somewhere in the flames. How many did we save? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would break his heart. 2 million, sir. Maybe a few thousand more in the outer colonies, Lisa replied. 2 million out of 12 billion. The numbers felt like a knife in his chest. Jake thought back to 20 years ago when the aliens first came. The Galactic Council had arrived with fanfare and celebration. Their ships were beautiful, sleek vessels that moved through space like dancers. The aliens themselves came in many forms. Some looked almost human, others were completely different. But they all spoke of peace and friendship. The Council offered humanity amazing gifts: technology that could cure diseases, machines that could create food from nothing, and most importantly, faster than light travel. In return, they asked only for friendship and cooperation. Earth's leaders signed the treaties with joy. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Dr. Alex Bennett had been one of the lead scientists working with alien technology. He was a quiet man who spent most of his time in laboratories, studying alien computers and databases. 3 days ago, Alex had discovered something terrible hidden in those databases. The Council kept records of every species they had ever encountered. 17 different alien races had shown the same traits as humans: rapid learning, quick adaptation, and dangerous creativity. All 17 of those species were now extinct. "Sir, Dr. Bennett is requesting permission to come to the bridge," Lisa said. "Send him up," Jake replied. Alex appeared a few minutes later carrying a data tablet in his shaking hands. The scientist looked like he had not slept in days. His hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled. "Admiral, I have translated more of the Council records," Alex said. "It is worse than we thought. They have been doing this for thousands of years. Any species that advances too quickly gets eliminated." Jake took the tablet and read the translated text. The Council's own documents described humans as dangerously adaptive and potential galactic threat. The report recommended immediate population reduction to manageable levels, followed by technological regression protocols. "They planned this from the beginning," Jake said, his voice filled with anger. 20 years of friendship and cooperation. All a lie. Commander Helen Carter entered the bridge at that moment. She had been coordinating the evacuation efforts from the outer colonies. Helen was a tall woman with short black hair and eyes that never missed anything. She had saved more human lives in the last week than anyone else in the fleet. "Admiral, we have a problem," Helen said. "The Council is broadcasting propaganda across all frequencies. They are telling the galaxy that humanity attacked first. They claim we were building secret weapons and planning to conquer other worlds." Jake was not surprised. The Council had spent 20 years studying human psychology and culture. They knew exactly how to manipulate public opinion. By the time the truth came out, if it ever did, there would be no humans left to tell their side of the story. "How long until all our ships are ready to jump?" Jake asked. 12 hours, sir, Helen replied. "But Admiral, where are we going?" "The Council controls every habitable system in the galaxy." Jake had been thinking about this question for days. The answer was both simple and terrifying. "We go beyond the galaxy, into the dark space between the stars." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. No one had ever traveled beyond the galactic rim and returned. It was millions of light years of empty space filled with nothing but cold and darkness. Most scientists believed it was impossible to survive out there. "Sir, the risks ... Lisa began. "The risks of staying are worse," Jake interrupted. "The Council will hunt us down no matter where we hide in this galaxy. Our only chance is to go where they cannot follow." General Nathan Brooks appeared on the main screen from Earth's surface. Nathan was leading the last defense of the planet, buying time for the evacuation ships to escape. His uniform was torn and dirty, and there was blood on his face from a recent battle. "Admiral, you need to go now," Nathan said. "Council ground forces are moving toward the last spaceports. We can hold them for maybe 6 more hours." "Nathan, come with us," Jake pleaded. "There's room on the ships," Nathan smiled sadly. "Someone needs to make sure they don't follow you too quickly. Besides, this is my planet too. I'm not leaving her to die alone." Jake understood. He would have made the same choice. "Send your final message to the fleet, General." Nathan nodded and switched to the fleet-wide communication channel. Every human ship in space received his words. "Remember what they took from us. Remember what we were becoming. And when the time comes, make them pay." The transmission ended. Jake knew he would never see Nathan again. He turned to his crew and gave the order that would change humanity forever. "All ships, prepare for jump. Destination, Galactic Rim. Coordinates uploaded to your navigation systems." Jake paused and looked at Earth one last time. "This is not goodbye, old girl. This is see you later." The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving their burning homeworld behind. But they carried with them something the Council had not expected: captured alien technology, brilliant human minds, and a burning desire for revenge. The Council thought they had eliminated a threat. Instead, they had created something much more dangerous. In the cold darkness beyond the galaxy, humanity would have time to grow, to learn, and to prepare. When they returned, they would not come as refugees begging for mercy. They would come as conquerors demanding justice. 50 years had passed since the human fleet escaped into the darkness beyond the galaxy. Dr. Carol Martinez stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station, watching the sunrise over humanity's first new world. The star was smaller and redder than Earth's sun, but it was theirs. No alien council could take it away from them. Carol was now the head of the terraforming project that had turned this frozen rock into a living world. When they first arrived, New Haven was nothing but ice and stone. Now it had forests, lakes, and cities filled with 3 million humans. Children who had never seen Earth called this place home. "The atmospheric processors are working better than expected," said her assistant, Dr. Ryan Kelly. Ryan was one of the children born during the long journey between galaxies. He had never breathed natural air until they created it here on New Haven. "We should be able to expand the habitable zone by another 1,000 square kilometers this year." Carol smiled. 50 years ago, such rapid terraforming would have been impossible. But isolation had forced humanity to innovate in ways they never could have imagined. Without the Council's technology restrictions, human scientists had combined alien knowledge with human creativity to achieve miracles. Captain Paul Hughes piloted his scout ship through the asteroid field on the edge of human space. Paul commanded one of the fastest ships in the human fleet, designed specifically for reconnaissance missions back into Council territory. His job was dangerous but vital, gathering intelligence on their former enemies. "Control, this is Scout 7, Paul spoke into his communication system. "I'm approaching the Galactic Rim." Beginning passive sensor sweep. The response came from New Haven's command center. "Copy Scout 7. What do you see out there?" Paul studied his sensor readings carefully. "Same as always, Control. Council patrol ships, but fewer than last month. They're still looking for us, but not very hard. I think they believe we died out here in the dark." This was good news. The Council's complacency was humanity's greatest advantage. While the aliens had grown comfortable and lazy, humans had spent every day of the last 50 years preparing for war. They built new ships, developed new weapons, and trained new soldiers. Every human child learned about the betrayal and dreamed of the day they would return home. In the deep laboratories beneath New Haven's capital city, Dr. Michelle Adams worked on humanity's greatest secret. Michelle was a geneticist who had spent decades studying Council biological data. She had discovered ways to enhance human capabilities that went far beyond anything the aliens had achieved. Test subject shows improved reaction times by 400%, Michelle dictated to her computer. Cognitive processing increased by 300%. No adverse side effects detected after 6 months of observation. The volunteer. Test subject was Lieutenant Kevin Wright, a young soldier who had volunteered for the enhancement program. Kevin could now move faster, think quicker, and see better than any normal human. Most importantly, he was immune to the biological weapons the Council had used against Earth. Dr. Adams, how many more subjects can we enhance this month? Kevin asked. His voice sounded normal, but Michelle knew his brain was processing information at superhuman speeds. We can handle 50 volunteers, Michelle replied. But remember, Kevin, this is still experimental. We don't know what long-term effects these enhancements might have. Kevin nodded. Doc, after what the Council did to our families, I think the risk is worth it. We need every advantage we can get. Michelle understood his feelings. Every human alive had lost someone in the betrayal. Her own parents had died when the Council bombed Chicago. The desire for revenge burned in every human heart, but they had learned to channel that anger into preparation rather than reckless action. Admiral Jake Morrison, now 70 years old but still sharp, reviewed the latest reports from across human space. The fleet that had fled Earth with 2 million refugees had grown into a civilization of 20 million people spread across 15 worlds. Each world specialized in different aspects of humanity's preparation for return. New Haven focused on terraforming and agriculture. Forge World manufactured weapons and starships. Academy Prime trained soldiers and officers. Research Station Alpha developed new technologies. Each world was connected by a network of jump gates that allowed instant travel across human space. Admiral, we have a message from Captain Hughes, his aide, Commander Gary Bell, reported. Gary was another of the children born during the Exodus, now grown into a capable officer. Put him through, Jake said. Paul's image appeared on the main screen. Admiral, I have some interesting intelligence from Council space. It appears they're having internal problems. 3 member species have left the Council in the last 5 years. There are rumors of civil war in the Altaran system. Jake leaned forward with interest. What's causing the instability? Near as I can tell, sir, it's economic collapse. Without humanity to exploit, and without the threat of human competition, to keep them motivated, the Council species have become lazy and corrupt. Their technology has barely advanced in 50 years. Some of their colonies are actually reverting to pre-spaceflight civilizations. This was exactly what Jake had hoped to hear. The Council had made the same mistake that many empires throughout history had made. They had become dependent on conquest and exploitation to maintain their power. Without new victims to feed on, the system was eating itself. Paul, I want you to make contact with some of those breakaway species, Jake ordered. Very carefully and only if you're certain it's safe. We need to know if any of them might be willing to ally with us when we return. Understood, Admiral. Scout 7 out. Jake turned to Gary with a thoughtful expression. Commander, I think it's time to begin the final phase of our preparations. Send word to all fleet commanders. I want a full strategic review in 6 months. It may be time to go home? Gary smiled. Like all the children of the Exodus, he had grown up hearing stories of Earth and dreaming of the day they would reclaim it. Sir, the younger generation is ready. We've been training for this our entire lives. Jake nodded. The older generation, like himself, remembered Earth as it was. They mourned for what was lost. But the younger generation saw Earth as a prize to be won, a challenge to be conquered. Their anger was colder, more focused, and far more dangerous than anything the Council could imagine. In the military academies on Forge World, human instructors trained the next generation of soldiers using lessons learned from 50 years of preparation. These were not the peacekeeping forces that had failed to protect Earth. These were warriors bred for conquest. Enhanced with alien technology and driven by generational hatred, the Council had intended to eliminate humanity as a threat. Instead, they had created something far worse than they could have imagined. In the darkness between galaxies, humanity had evolved beyond anything the aliens had encountered before. When they returned to Council space, they would not come as The desperate refugees who had fled 50 years ago, they would come as conquerors and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Karen Stone stood on the bridge of the battleship Vengeance as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Council territory. 75 years had passed since humanity fled into the darkness, and now they had returned. But this was not the same species that had once begged for acceptance among the stars. The ship that emerged from the void bore no resemblance to the crude vessels that had escaped Earth's destruction decades ago. The Vengeance was 2 kilometers long, its hull made from materials that could absorb energy weapons and reflect sensor scans. Along its sides, weapon ports gleamed with barely contained power that made space itself ripple with distortion. Admiral, we're receiving multiple communications from Council patrol ships, reported Lieutenant Commander Dale Johnson from the tactical station. Dale was one of the enhanced humans, his reflexes and processing speed far beyond normal human. Limits? Let them talk, Karen replied calmly. She was 50 years old, born during the long voyage between galaxies. Unlike the older generation who remembered Earth with sadness, Karen remembered it with cold fury. Begin broadcasting our message on all frequencies. The transmission that went out across Council space was simple and terrifying. In perfect galactic standard, the human voice spoke words that sent chills through every alien who heard them. This is Admiral Karen Stone of the Terran Federation. We have returned. On the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions began immediately. The Zephyrian High Chancellor, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, called for immediate military mobilization. The Alteron War Minister, whose species looked like giant insects, demanded that the human ship be destroyed before it could cause panic. How is this possible? Asked the Korathi representative, her tentacles writhing with nervous energy. Our report said all humans died in the void beyond the galaxy. Supreme Counselor Vex, leader of the Nexari and chairman of the council, studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. The Nexari were the most advanced species in the council, their technology superior to all others. But the readings from the human ship showed energy signatures that exceeded anything in their databases. Send our fastest battle group to intercept them, Vex ordered, and contact our intelligence networks. I want to know everything about how these humans survived. The Council's response was swift and overwhelming. 300 warships converged on the human vessel's position. Led by the dreadnought Eternal Glory, it was the most powerful ship in the Council fleet, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Captain Dale Johnson watched the approaching fleet with professional interest rather than fear. His enhanced vision could track each ship individually, and his modified brain calculated their weaknesses faster than any computer. Admiral, they're bringing everything they have. 300 ships, including their primary dreadnought. Good, Karen replied. I was hoping for a proper demonstration. The lead council ship, a Zephyrian cruiser, opened communications. Attention. Human vessel, you are in violation of council space. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Karen activated the return channel. This is Admiral Stone. You have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw your forces before I demonstrate why that would be in your best interest. The Zephyrian captain laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You are outnumbered 300 to 1. Human, your species was always too arrogant for its own good. 59 seconds, Karen said calmly. The council ships began moving into attack formation. Energy weapons charged and missile tubes loaded. For 75 years, these weapons had maintained peace through fear. No single ship had ever stood against the full might of the council fleet. 30 seconds, Karen announced. Admiral, they're not backing down, Dale reported unnecessarily. His enhanced senses could track the weapon systems of every enemy ship. Simultaneously, 10 seconds, Karen said. All hands prepare for combat demonstration. When the timer reached 0, Karen simply said, execute. The Vengeance moved like liquid lightning. One moment it was motionless in space, the next it was dancing between the council ships like a ghost. Weapons that had seemed invincible suddenly seemed clumsy and slow. Human technology, enhanced by 75 years of desperate innovation, had advanced far beyond anything the complacent council had developed. The first council ship simply vanished. No explosion, no debris, just there one moment and gone the next. Then the second ship disappeared, then the third. The human vessel moved through the council formation like death itself. Untouchable and unstoppable. Within 10 minutes, half the council fleet had been eliminated. The survivors fled in panic, their sensors unable to track the human ship's movements or understand its weapons. The mighty Eternal Glory, pride of the Council Navy, limped away with its main guns destroyed and its hull breached in 17 places. Message sent, Admiral, Dale reported with satisfaction. Shall we pursue the survivors? No, Karen replied. Let them go. They need to carry the news back to their masters. Ambassador Craig Foster stood in the council chambers 3 days later, facing the same assembly that had condemned humanity to extinction decades ago. But this time, the dynamic was completely different. The council members who had once spoken with absolute authority now whispered among themselves in fear and confusion. Craig was enhanced like most of the new generation of humans. He stood taller than normal humans, his muscles denser, his reflexes faster, his mind sharper. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute confidence backed by overwhelming power. Honored counselors, Craig began, his tone mocking the formal protocols. I bring greetings from the Terran Federation and demands for immediate reparations. Supreme Counselor Vex tried to maintain his authority. You have no right to make demands here, human. This council represents the lawful authority of civilized space, Craig smiled coldly. Civilized? You call genocide civilized? We have records. Counselor Vex, we know about the 17 other species you eliminated. We know about your systematic suppression of any civilization that dared to advance too quickly. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Many council members had never known the full extent of their leadership's crimes. The truth was classified at the highest levels, known only to a few. You will immediately cease all military operations, Craig continued. You will provide full reparations for the destruction of Earth and the murder of 12 billion humans. You will cede territorial control of the Sol system and 50 surrounding star systems to human authority. The Alteron War Minister rose. From his seat, his insect-like features twisted with rage. We will never submit to human demands. You are still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Craig's smile became even colder. Are we, Admiral Stone? Please provide the counselor with a visual demonstration. The main display screen activated, showing space around Nexus Prime, where there had been empty darkness moments before. Now hundreds of human ships appeared. They had been there all along, cloaked by technology the council couldn't detect. The message was clear. Humanity could strike at the heart of council power any time they chose. As I was saying, Craig continued as counsel. Members stared in shock at the screen. You will comply with our demands. The alternative is total war, and I think we've demonstrated which side would win that conflict. The Karathi representative, whose species had been more peaceful than the others, spoke carefully. Ambassador Foster, what assurance do we have that humanity will not simply eliminate us as you claim we did to you? Craig considered the question seriously. Because unlike you, we learn from our mistakes. We don't seek to rule through fear and oppression. We seek justice and security. Comply with our demands, and your species will be allowed to exist in peace. Continue to threaten other civilizations, and you will share the fate of every other failed empire in galactic history. Supreme Counselor Vex tried one last time to maintain council authority. Even if we agreed to your demands, the other member species would never accept human dominance. Then perhaps, Craig replied, it's time for the council to dissolve and make way for a more equitable arrangement. The age of alien supremacy is over, Counselor. The age of human leadership has begun. The session ended with the council in chaos. Some species called for immediate war, others for negotiation, still others for complete surrender. But everyone understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Humanity had returned, and they would never again allow themselves to be victims. Fleet Admiral Lisa Chang watched the tactical display as her forces surrounded the Ultron military complex at Kepler Station. The Council's attempts to mobilize against humanity had failed at every turn. Each alien fleet that faced human forces was destroyed or scattered within hours. The technology gap had become too wide to bridge through numbers alone. "Admiral, the Ultron commander is requesting terms for surrender," reported Captain Andrew Phillips from the communication station. Andrew led the human intelligence forces that had systematically dismantled Council spy networks across the galaxy. "Tell them the same terms we offered everyone else," Lisa replied calmly. "Complete disarmament, full cooperation with war crimes. Investigations and reparations to be determined by human tribunals." The Ultron response came quickly. Like most Council species, they had learned that resistance only made their situation worse. Better to surrender now and hope for mercy than face complete annihilation. Lisa felt no satisfaction in their surrender. She was one of the generation that remembered Earth, remembered watching her homeworld burn while helpless aliens either participated or stood by and did nothing. Justice demanded that these crimes be answered for, but victory felt hollow when it came so late. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic sector of New Geneva Station, Ambassador Rachel Green met with representatives from the Korathi Confederation. Unlike most Council species, the Korathi had abstained from the vote to eliminate humanity. They had also secretly helped several human survivors escape the initial purges, actions that were now being revealed through captured Council archives. Ambassador Green, our government is prepared to offer full support to human repatriation efforts, said Korathi Delegate Vashka, her tentacles curling in what humans had learned was a gesture of sincere respect. "We deeply regret that we lacked the courage to openly oppose the genocide when it occurred." Rachel studied the alien carefully. Trust would not come easily after 75 years of exile, but the Korathi had proven themselves different from the other Council species. "Your people's assistance will be remembered, Delegate Vashka. But understand that humanity can never again place its survival in the hands of others." "We understand completely," Vashka replied. "We ask only for the chance to prove that not. All Council species supported the crimes committed in our name. While diplomats negotiated the future, human intelligence teams worked to uncover the full extent of Council crimes. Major Andrew Phillips led these investigations from a secure facility on Luna, humanity's first reclaimed territory in the Sol system. Earth itself remained uninhabitable, its surface still scarred by Council bombardment, but Luna had become the center of human operations in their former home system. "Major, we've cracked another classified archive," reported Sergeant Kevin Wright, one of the enhanced humans whose abilities made him perfect for intelligence work. "This one contains records going back 3,000 years. Andrew examined the translated documents with growing horror. The pattern was always the same. A young species would develop faster than light travel, begin exploring beyond their home system, and show signs of rapid technological advancement. Within decades, they would be eliminated through engineered plagues, resource wars, or direct military intervention. How many?" Andrew asked, though he dreaded the answer. 37 confirmed species extinctions," Kevin replied. But there are references to others where the records have been destroyed or are too damaged to read." The scope of the genocide was staggering. Entire civilizations, billions of beings, wiped from existence to maintain the Council's power structure. Humanity had not been uniquely targeted. They were simply the latest in a long line of species that had committed the crime of showing too much potential. Dr. Stephen Parker worked in the archaeological division, leading teams that investigated the dead worlds where extinct species had once thrived. Stephen was searching for physical evidence to support the documentary proof they had, found in Council archives. On a world designated only as Gravesite 17, Stephen's team uncovered the ruins of a civilization that had achieved interstellar flight just before their elimination. The archaeological evidence painted a picture of a species remarkably similar to humanity, curious, innovative, and tragically naive about the dangers of galactic politics. "Professor Parker, you need to see this," called Dr. Patricia Wright from the excavation site. Patricia was Stephen's lead archaeologist, and her enhanced vision could spot details that normal humans would miss. Stephen examined the artifact Patricia had uncovered. It was a data storage device, somehow preserved for 3 millennia in the planet's dry soil. When they decoded its contents back at the research station, they found something that made Stephen's blood run cold. "It's a message," Stephen told his team, a final transmission from their homeworld as the Council fleets arrived. "They're asking why the species they trusted as friends and allies are destroying them." The parallel to humanity's own experience was exact. These beings had also been welcomed by the Council, had also been promised friendship and cooperation, and had also been betrayed when they became too successful too quickly. Commander Patricia Wright led a different kind of investigation team. One focused on gathering testimony from Council species about the crimes their governments had committed. Many individual aliens had opposed the genocidal policies but had been powerless to stop them. Their testimonies would be crucial for the war crimes tribunals that would soon begin. "Commander, we have another witness requesting protection," reported Lieutenant Gary Bell. "She's a Vorthan scientist who claims to have evidence of biological weapon development specifically targeted at human genetics." Patricia nodded grimly. The Vorthan had been among the most enthusiastic supporters of human elimination, developing custom plagues designed to kill humans while leaving other species unharmed. Their expertise in biological warfare had made them valuable Council allies, and would now make them priority targets for human justice. The witness was Dr. Gilvio, a Vorthan biologist whose conscience had finally overcome her species' loyalty to the Council. Her testimony revealed the cold, clinical manner in which human extinction had been planned. "We studied human genetic patterns for 15 years, Galvai explained through a translator. "The goal was complete species elimination with minimal impact on galactic infrastructure. Humans were to be treated as a contamination to be cleansed, not as beings with rights." Patricia struggled to maintain professional detachment as she recorded the testimony. The casual way this alien described planning the murder of billions of humans was almost beyond comprehension. As evidence mounted, the galaxy began to understand the true nature of what the Council had been. Not a benevolent alliance of civilized species, but a protection racket that eliminated any potential competition. The revelation sparked rebellions across Council space as member species realized they had been complicit in genocide. Admiral Jake Morrison, now 85 years old but still commanding respect throughout human space, reviewed the final reports from across the occupied territories. The military phase of humanity's return was essentially complete. No Council fleet could stand against human forces, and most Council worlds had surrendered without a fight. "Admiral, President Lewis is requesting your presence at the first session of the War Crimes Tribunal," his aide informed him. Jake nodded slowly. The military conquest had been the easy part. Now came the harder task of building a just peace from the ashes of the old order. The Council system had maintained stability for thousands of years through fear and genocide. Humanity would have to find a better way or risk becoming the very thing they had fought against. The trials would begin on Luna, in sight of the dead Earth that reminded everyone why justice was necessary. But justice alone would not be enough. Humanity had learned that the universe was a dangerous place where the strong preyed upon the weak. They would never again allow themselves to be weak. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity decided to be strong instead. President Catherine Lewis stood at the podium in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station, looking out at representatives from over 200 species. 2 years had passed since humanity's return to galactic politics, and the changes had been profound. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by the Galactic Assembly, where every species had an equal voice. "Fellow beings," Catherine began, her words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously, "we gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in building a better future for all sapient life." The assembly hall was filled with delegates both familiar and new. Many were species that had hidden their technological capabilities for centuries, afraid of suffering the same fate as humanity and the 37 other extinct civilizations. The revelation of the Council's crimes had given them courage to emerge from the shadows. Among the new delegates was Ambassador Ketra from the Silvani Republic, a species that had secretly developed faster than light travel 50 years ago, but had pretended to be a primitive agricultural society to avoid Council attention. Their ships were now joining human fleets in exploration missions beyond the galactic rim. The old system failed because it was built on fear, Catherine continued. Fear of change, fear of competition, fear of losing power. We propose something different, a system built on cooperation, where advancement is celebrated rather than punished. In the diplomatic section reserved for former council leadership, those few who had survived the war crimes tribunals listened in shame. Supreme Counselor Vex had been executed for genocide, but some lower-level officials had been granted mercy in exchange for full cooperation with human investigators. Admiral Frank Taylor supervised security for the assembly from a control room deep within the station. Frank was responsible for ensuring that the transition to the new order proceeded peacefully. His enhanced senses could monitor thousands of potential threats simultaneously, while his tactical computers analyzed every possible scenario for disruption. Admiral, we're detecting some unusual activity in the Centauri sector, reported Lieutenant Sandra Moore from the intelligence station. Several ships of unknown configuration, possibly scouting vessels. Frank studied the sensor data carefully. Maintain observation, but do not engage unless they show hostile intent. These could be another hidden species deciding to reveal themselves. The unknown ships turned out to be exactly that, representatives from the ethereal collective, a species that had achieved energy-based existence centuries ago but had hidden from the Council by existing in a different phase of spacetime. They had watched the genocide of 37 species with growing horror, but had lacked the courage to intervene until humanity's return changed everything. Dr. Sandra Moore lead the scientific cooperation programs that had emerged from the new galactic order. Working alongside alien researchers, human scientists were pushing the boundaries of knowledge in ways that would have been impossible under the old system. The fear-based restrictions that had held back galactic civilization for millennia were finally lifted. The quantum resonance experiments are showing remarkable results, Sandra reported to the Assembly Science Committee. By combining human innovation with Korethi mathematical principles and ethereal energy manipulation techniques, we've achieved breakthrough advances in faster-than-light communication. These scientific collaborations were producing benefits for all species involved. Medical advances that combined human adaptability with alien expertise were eliminating diseases that had plagued various species for thousands of years. Agricultural techniques developed on human colony worlds were feeding populations that had faced starvation under the Council's resource allocation system. Commander Gary Bell oversaw the integrated military academies where humans and aliens trained together for the first time in galactic history. The old system had maintained separate military forces for each species, ensuring that no single species could challenge Council authority. The new system encouraged cooperation and mutual learning. Cadet formation, attention! Gary called to a mixed group of human and alien military students. The formation included humans with their enhanced reflexes, Korathi with their superior strategic thinking, and Silvani with their natural ability to interface with computer systems. The cadets moved with precision that would have been impossible under the old system. Human tactical innovation combined with alien strategic wisdom created military capabilities that exceeded anything either species could achieve alone. More importantly, they were learning to trust each other in ways that previous generations never could. On the frontier worlds, exploration continued under the new cooperative system. Captain Dale Johnson commanded a joint exploration vessel crewed by multiple species, investigating the mysteries of intergalactic space that lay beyond the galaxy's edge. Captain, we're detecting artificial structures in the void between galaxies, reported his science officer, a Korathi named Telmore, whose tentacles danced with excitement. The energy signatures don't match any known technology. Dale studied the sensor readings with interest. Could be remnants from another galaxy's civilization, or something else entirely. maintain safe distance, and begin detailed scans. These discoveries were becoming common as the